Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm back. I'm ready to continue.
Good. Now that let's return to 2070. After Coalescence collapsed. You were trapped in Singapore.
With quarantine zone, we couldn't raise WA command. If we were going to escape, we had to improvise. We turned to the 54 Immortals. They were dangerous and unpredictable, but they were no enemy of ours.
Hendricks trusted them?
What choice did we have? If we wanted out of Singapore, we had to go through the biodomes. We had to go through the Immortals. Getting in was easy. Getting out would be another matter entirely. At the time, the biodomes were the safest place to be. With the outbreak of 2060, the Immortals seized the marina and dug in. The biodomes were impenetrable. Dead-proof. Hendricks had a contact, Danny Lee. He was slimy as they come, but he could get us transport. Not only that, Taylor had beaten us out of the biodomes, and Danny claimed to know where he was heading.
They had this information.
Danny was convinced Gojulan had info on her central server. They were doing us a solid, really. But that didn't come cheap. They wanted food, water, weapons, reinforcements from the Winslow Accord. We agreed to their terms, with no idea if we could honor it. The Immortals were a people of their word, and quite efficient in punishing those who did not act the same. Danny was in a bad mood. The Immortals weren't exactly happy to see us. They knew our part in what had happened in Coalescence. Danny went so far as to accuse us of opening the containment zones ourselves. Hendricks persuaded him otherwise. But that didn't change how I felt. We were there. We had our chance to stop Diaz in the server room.
You cannot blame yourself for what is out of your control. There were powers in play far greater than your own. Powers with far more control. You were a pawn in his game.
You mean Deimos? Well, as it turns out, we weren't his only pawns in the room.
How do you mean?
You can get us a ride out? Sure, I'll give you that. But claiming to know where Taylor was? Know that saying, too good to be true? Something was wrong. There was something malevolent, malicious. I called Danny out. I wasn't too happy with that. But then again, scared. The outbreak now occurring worldwide was unprecedented. We were all scared. Up till now, we'd become complacent. We got comfortable. The dead had stayed in their cage, and we kept pretending nothing had happened. Taylor and Diaz changed that. Pandemonium, riots, civil war, countries were already tearing themselves apart, in many cases before the dead even reached them. But Danny wasn't scared. He was stalling. And it only took us another moment to find out why.
The Go siblings. Danny set you up.
No. This was different. It was their eyes. Hollow, empty, void of life, like they could see right through me. They all had it, just like Diaz. It was only later we found out all higher-ups in the Immortals were outfitted with D&I, like us. If only we'd known the part our own technology would play. The thing about dead killers, though, there's always a plan B. We had a robot squad in place, ready if the situation took a turn. Gojulan bolted before our robots got her. She was headed for the server room in Cloud Mountain, the only place we could put in the call from transport. It became quickly apparent that uninvited guests had joined the party in the biodomes. The dead were flooding into this safe haven. It was about to become hell on Earth. We had to move. We had to get to Cloud Mountain. I don't know how the undead got in. A forgotten open gate. A child's mistake. A poorly nailed board over a window. It didn't matter. It was spreading fast. We were already outnumbered 20 to 1. The remaining humans scrambling away. Heard that familiar screech. Parasites, mutated creatures born out of 6115, were flying towards us. We heard that familiar screech. Parasites, mutated creatures born out of 6115, were flying towards us. We heard that familiar screech. Parasites, mutated creatures born out of 6115, were flying towards us. We heard that familiar screech. Parasites, mutated creatures born out of 6115, were flying towards us. Heard that familiar screech. Mutated creatures born out of 6115 were flying towards us. With the shipping yard cleared, Cloud Mountain was just ahead, the server room at the top. We had a long climb ahead of us.
What happened in the server room?
By the time we got there, Gojulan encrypted her hardware, locking us out of the central server. Hendricks stepped in, but we were a few seconds too late. Damage was done.
Why did she lock you out?
It didn't make any sense. Sure, we weren't on the best of terms, but this wasn't her. Something else made her do it. Something was controlling her. The encryption used a biometric hand scan. Hendricks tried to unlock it. But the Go siblings were smart. They'd set up an access system requiring both of their hands for authorization. And her brother was shredded with bullets back in the bar. We could hear the horde coming, and we only had one sibling. But she did have two hands.
You chose to cut off her hand. Why?
I hoped the biometrics were interchangeable, allowing the siblings to use either reader. If we were calling transport and getting out alive, it had to work. Lucky for us, it did. Hendricks interfaced with the system. He was able to raise WA command. We needed a ride out ASAP. They had a VTOL a few minutes out. Rendezvous was set for the top of the dome. But Hendricks wanted to know what Gojulan had on Taylor. Anything, even the smallest detail, would be helpful in picking up his trail. That would take some time. And time was something we didn't have. Hendricks searched the archives. I dealt with the incoming horde. Hendricks had pulled all the data he could. I hoped it was enough. Our pickup was in position. It's time to get the hell out of here. Our bird wasn't alone in the sky. Our VTOL had caught the attention of an old, automated race. We needed to find another way.
This wraith telling you. It was like the malfunctioning robots you found in different quarantine zones. The kind targeting anything and everything as an enemy.
Just like that. Except on a much larger, more deadly scale. And this one was very interested in us. Command had an exit route. Extraction set beyond the swamps. If we crossed the super trees, there were shipping docks where we could commandeer an airboat. It's easier said than done. Between the flesh eaters and that wraith would be no walk in the park. We had to haul ass and stay out of sight. But they weren't our only concern. Winslow Accord picked up chatter ahead. Apparently, we weren't the only humans using the docks to escape. We had to haul ass and stay out of sight. But they weren't our only concern. Winslow Accord picked up chatter ahead. Apparently, we weren't the only humans using the docks to escape. To haul ass and stay out of sight. But they weren't our only concern. Winslow Accord picked up chatter ahead. Apparently, we weren't the only humans using the docks to escape. super tree was collapsing. The only safe route to the docks was up. Chatter confirmed that 54 immortals were scrambling to get out of the biodomes through the swamps. From the sound of it, they wanted us dead as much as the flesh eaters did. Looked like we were jumping from one bad situation into another. Hendricks commandeered an airboat and set the autopilot. We had undead on our ass, and more 54I ahead. And that rogue wraith wasn't done with us yet. Exfil was just ahead. We were getting out of sync.
What about Taylor? What did Hendricks learn from the surf?
Nothing. They'd been wiped. Taylor was alone. And the virus, 6115, wouldn't stop this time. The Winslow Accord and CDP had been thrown into chaos. We'd lost Hong Kong, Berlin, and Cairo. And it was just getting started. What would come next? How the world would change? There was no way to be ready for that. Five years. Opening the quarantine zones did exactly as we feared. And by 2075, what was a contained situation gave way to anarchy. Humanity's numbers had been reduced to a few hundred mil scattered across the globe. The undead had risen to 7 billion. Taylor was in the wind, a faded reminder of our inability to stop Armageddon. There was still a Winslow Accord kill-on-sight ordinance in place, but he was a distant memory. Until the aquifers. We were on a routine bombing run outside Cairo. Our orders were to bomb the dead into the next life. Our target was a Catardus colony. They'd taken over a refinery. It was a well-armed facility protecting them and the dead they worshipped. Top priority was to cut off their comms and leave them in the dark. But first, we had to clear out their defenses. This was a routine sweep. Every time another sympathizer colony sprouted up, we'd squash it back down. As far as we were concerned, we were doing the world a favor. We moved on the array, but the undead sympathizers weren't going down without a fight. Disabling the comms would take some time. Our support detail dealt with that. I dealt with reinforcements. We moved on the array, But the undead sympathizers weren't going down without a fight. Disabling the comms would take some time. Our support detail dealt with that. I dealt with reinforcements. The station disabled, we had to get back to our bird. The array was ahead. Bring it down, we'd be one step closer to eradicating this colony. Our support detail needed a few moments to disable the array. Lucky for me, I had more hostiles to keep me occupied. With the comms disabled, we needed to get back in the air. With their comms jammed, the next step was to breach the control room to take back the facility. There was access ahead. I just needed to get through the flooded room in front of me. Our support detail insisted on coming with.
When you were swimming, something went wrong.
Our D&I... There was a malfunction.
What did you see?
I saw... I was drowning. I thought I heard...
This is not your time. Get back up. Do not trust him. Everything is not what it seems.
What did you hear?
Nothing. I couldn't make it out.
Get up.
Then I woke up. Someone pulled me out of the water. Someone saved me.
Saved you?
A guardian angel. Someone watching over me. My support detail. She got through somehow, and pulled me out. She brought me back from the brink. She said it wasn't my time. My work wasn't done. I had to stop Taylor. I don't know how she knew. It didn't make any sense.
Did you know her? This woman?
No. I'd never worked with her before today.
And yet she knew about Taylor. She knew about what happened. And you're sure she was there?
What? Why? You think I made her up?
You yourself said your DNI systems were malfunctioning.
What? You gonna tell me I'm crazy next? I know what I saw. I did not make her up. I didn't fucking imagine her.
Did she have a name?
Of course she had a fucking name. The Guardian Angel. She said her name was Kane. She told me she'd help me get through this. She said we had to move. Control was beyond a server room ahead. If we were going to take the refinery from these dead sympathizers, we needed to clear it out. If we couldn't, it would be on to Plan B.
Plan B?
Plan bomb this shithole to hell. We prepped to breach, but it turns out our enemies planned ahead. The explosion blocked our path. We had to double back. It caught us off guard. But the noise also caught the undead's attention. We regrouped with our allies. That's Egyptian Army Lieutenant Ziad Khalil, friend of ours. He was durable, seasoned. He defended his home through undead wars. He wouldn't go down without a fight.
What was the plan?
Khalil would move on control from the exterior. I'd sweep the dead from the air. Our guardian angel accompanied me. She She told me the answer to finding Taylor was on this refinery. Why she thought that? How she knew that? It was surreal. When Khalil took the control room, he found something on the security footage. Something we needed to see.
Taylor.
Like seeing a ghost. We just stumbled upon him. This wasn't just a Cotardis colony. This was Taylor's hideout. They were already evacuating Taylor. We locked down the facility, separating Taylor and his associate, Moretti.
Who did you go after?
It was too late for Taylor. Cotardis put him on a VTOL. We go after Moretti. Command informed us the kill order was still active. Henry's didn't know. But it wasn't his call.
How did you feel about it?
5 years. 5 years after our fuck-up, and we could fix it. I'd gladly take the shot. Moretti below us. If we were gonna get him, we'd need to take a shortcut.
Shortcut?
A leap of faith.
Listen to her. Trust her. Find Taylor.
How was Hendricks coping with the change of plans?
He was upset. And why wouldn't he be? Command wanted our friends dead. He wanted to bring Moretti in alive.
But that wasn't all, was it?
No, Hendricks had been different since Singapore.
In what way?
Every way. Aggressive, angry. He was losing perspective. And something was just off. I should have known what happened.
How could you have known? Even if you had, what could you have done? You seem so certain of his intentions.
We all battle inner demons and our choices. Hendricks, Taylor. That whole team rose the ranks together, fought alongside each other. Little did we know one of his friends was watching us. Moretti had locked himself in the security room. Moretti had locked himself in the security room. Only way in was to cut the power. To do that, we had to overload the generators. Moretti had locked himself in the security room. Only way in was to cut the power. To do that, we had to overload the generators.
You cornered him. What did Moretti say?
He said that name, same as Diaz. Deimos. He said if I wanted answers, I had to find Damien Bishop, a man we both knew from a past mission. Bishop could help stop Deimos. But first, I had to kill him. He kept saying, this isn't me, this isn't me. He kept saying Deimos made him do it. So I granted his last request. I killed him as he asked. I did our job. It didn't sit with Hendricks.
Can you blame him for his outburst?
Hendricks was pissed because Moretti was our link to finding Taylor. A link I just severed and split open on a spike. And the guilt I carried all those years that I channeled inward, Hendricks channeled outward. At me. This was our chance to fix our mistake, and I fucked that up. Hendricks said I may as well have damned the world myself. I'd had enough. I knocked some sense into him. Sometimes it was the only way to get through. I told him what Moretti had told me about Bishop, Deimos, whoever the hell he was. The mention of Bishop got Hendricks' attention. Last we saw him was back in '65, 10 years ago in Ethiopia. How Bishop knew Deimos, we hadn't a clue. But we'd figure this shit out, and we'd do it together. But right then, we had bigger problems. The Egyptian army couldn't hold the refinery. Plan bomb this shithole to hell was a go. We had to get out of there. Now! We lost Taylor, but we had a lead. Moretti said Bishop could help us find Deimos, which meant he was our next stop.
This bishop that Moretti mentioned,
Damien Bishop, the man who found the cure. A vaccination to make 6115 victims human again.
a cure. Did it work?
It should have. Something was blocking it. Bishop had this theory. He believed somewhere there was an undead brain. A single creature controlling them as a collective hive. He believed that it somehow blocked the cure. We met him in 2065 when he made the breakthrough. News traveled fast. He and a few others were kidnapped in Ethiopia. It was a joint op with Taylor's team. We were to extract Bishop from a base overrun by the dead. With the dead crawling all over, we needed a distraction. Something to keep the flesh eaters occupied so we could grab Bishop. We weren't dead killers yet, so we had to be a little more creative. And lucky for us, there were plenty of NRC birds in the sky, and the NRC's dead system still worked. Laser cannons built to auto-target any hostile aircraft.
So you created the diversion.
And Taylor's team prepped extraction. Unfortunately, it seemed our cover wouldn't last as long as we hoped. The remaining NRC noticed the radio silence from air traffic control and had sent soldiers to investigate. Command set exfil for a satellite station off base. We reset the dead system to target one of the automated planes circling above. Turns out the undead have a thing for giant explosions, like moths drawn to a porch lamp. And all we had to do was turn on the lights. Unfortunately, we couldn't exactly control the landing. Hendricks alerted Taylor the bird was down and the diversion in play. We took out the NRC and moved. Bishop was being held underground in the security station across the tarmac. Hendricks ordered weapons down. The base was crawling with NRC soldiers and undead. No need to draw anymore. We crossed the tarmac, The tunnel ahead led to the security station. Hendricks took out the guards. I hacked into the system to find Bishop.
Why were the NRC still at the base? It was being overrun.
They needed the cure. They kidnapped Bishop's whole team and would do whatever it took to get their hands on it. They'd torture these researchers till the dead broke down the door and ripped them all to shreds if it meant they could save their people. It wasn't personal. It was self-preservation. With the secret out about Bishop's discovery, he'd become the most wanted man in the world. The NRC were just the first to grab him. It was every country for itself. Why do you think we were there? The Winslow Accord wanted the same thing the NRC did.
You can't rationalize anything when you're put up against the wall.
Nothing about this was rational. It was instinctual, animalistic, survival. He had been escorted to an interrogation room. We had to hurry. Behind us was an undead army. Once one got a whiff, the others would come running. Hendricks told Bishop who we were and that we had to move, but Bishop refused to leave without the other researchers. his friends. Our instructions were specific. Bishop was our priority. We didn't like it, but Bishop refused to leave without them.
Sounds like you were taking an awful risk.
He said for the cure to work, he needed them. They weren't expendable. Technically, we were.
In a way, you and the NRC were not so different in what you wanted and how far you were willing to go.
Our method was different. Our reasoning was not. No one wants to sacrifice themselves to save the world. But you like to think if the moment came, you'd have it in you.
Who was inside the cell?
Lieutenant Ziyed Khalil, member of the Egyptian army. Back in '65, he was a guard assigned to Bishop's research station. This was how we met. Hendricks cut him down and notified Taylor we were freeing the other hostages. Taylor said we didn't have the time. The base was swarming with additional NRC forces. They weren't letting their prize go that easily. There was a tunnel full of hostile soldiers between us and our exit. A cargo elevator ahead was the only way to the surface. No telling how close the dead were behind us. The remaining NRC forces were waiting for us above. They weren't about to let their prize prisoner go. If it meant getting the cure and saving their families, they were willing to die for it. And they weren't the only ones. We'd never seen dead killers in action before. To us, it was a spectacle. To them, it was just another day in the life. Wait a minute.
Do not be deceived by his lies. Remember your past. Remember when you first met John Taylor. Remember the truth.
Wait, this is wrong. This can't be real. I told you I met Taylor in Zurich during the 2065 Catardist Uprising. After I became a dead killer. But here I am with Taylor. And my limbs haven't been replaced yet. Still human. Why did you tell me that the first time I met Taylor was Zurich?
Focus. You need to complete this memory. What was Taylor's plan?
Well, we were still on for exfil. But first, we had to blow the bridge. We followed Diaz. Both undead and NRC forces were converging on our position. Paul grabbed us after the hangar. She was to take us to Moretti, so we could blow the bridge. After the bridge, we were forced inside a comm center. Moretti took point. The rendezvous with Taylor was an APC garage just ahead. We could hear the undead screaming towards us. But that was all. A robot horde was moving in. And Taylor would need some time to get the door open.
You were forced into the garage. What happened there?
Hendricks wanted to go back and get the other hostages. Taylor said Bishop was priority. After all, he had the cure. The rest were just collateral.
What did Taylor do?
He volunteered to take his team to get the others. We were to take Khalil and Bishop to exfil. We got on the APC. Bishop was the most important man in the world right now. We had to get him to exfil if it killed us. stalled on us. Hendricks needed a minute to get going. The undead, robots. The APC spun out and crashed. Hendricks moved Bishop into position. The drone evac was inbound. Once secured in the drop pod, it would return to collect. We just needed to hold back the horde.
What happened?
Airspace was compromised. They had to pull out. Bishop was priority. We were expendable. We heard Taylor on the comms. He was inbound and told us to hang on. No. I can't do this. I can't live this again.
I am sorry. You must.
No, please!
If you wish to defeat Deimos, you must. To save the world, you must relive this.
I should have died. I felt myself fade. It was over. That was the day I met John Taylor. That was the day I became a dead killer.
You met Bishop, the man who found the cure, before he died at the Cairo aquifers. Moretti told you to find him.
On Moretti's instruction, we sought him out. We told him what we knew, which at the time was just a name, Deimos. He didn't know much, just that Deimos was responsible for the outbreak, and that a safe house in Singapore had a dossier on the guy. So we returned to Singapore. Little did we know, Gojulan had taken the city, and somehow gotten the undead to obey her. If we were gonna get to the safe house, we'd have to go through them. The vultures. Sadistic scavengers, ravaged by atrocity and time, driven by fear and insanity. We saw their victims strung up on display the moment we arrived.
When forced against the wall, the impurities of man can be revealed.
It was more than that. This was survivalism. When only 1% of the world's population is human, you either died and became the undead, or you survived by preying on the living. These scavengers were well equipped. I suppose that's what you get when you prey on your fellow man. We made quick work of them. Hendricks took point down the alley. From the sounds of it, the dead knew we were coming. Clearly, Singapore was happy to have us back in town. Overwatch confirmed the vultures were converging on the safe house. Civilians spotted on site. We didn't know if we could get through without additional collateral damage.
It's curious, the vulture's behavior. Willing to kill the living and the dead alike without prejudice. Survival of the fittest at its most primal. They act with reckless abandon without thinking of the consequences. They had to know. The more they killed other humans, the slimmer their chances became.
Don't think of them as humans. They're animals. Abandoned by any form of governing body, they dictated their own society. They were tribal, nomadic. In their eyes, man was as much a threat as the undead. The scavengers began realizing they weren't the only humans in the area. It was a matter of time before Gojulan knew we were here. The safe house was beyond the gardens, but the gardens belonged to the dead. They smelled us lurking above. The scavengers began realizing they weren't the only humans in the area. It was a matter of time before Gojulan knew we were here. The safe house was beyond the gardens, but the gardens belonged to the dead. They smelled us lurking. The scavengers began realizing they weren't the only humans in the area. It was a matter of time before Gojulan knew we were here. The scavengers began realizing they weren't the only humans in the area. It was a matter of time before Gojulan knew we were here. The safe house was beyond the gardens, but the gardens belonged to the dead. They smelled us lurking above. Before Hendrix could take him out, the scavenger alerted Gojulan. She knew we were here. Reinforcements were moving on a checkpoint nearby, along with more dead.
Why did they create these displays? What was the purpose?
They weren't just displays. They were art. A way to show off their work, lure their enemies with the dead bodies of friends. Vultures are territorial. They fought among themselves, sociopaths at war with everyone and everything, undead or fellow human. Either way, you were a predator competing over the same resources. And now we'd become prey baited into a trap. A malfunctioning ASP heard the commotion and joined the party. I needed to find a rocket launcher. The vultures beat us there, set fire to the facility. Gojulan announced herself over a PA. She was inside, and she had a special guest waiting for us. We cleared the plaza. All that was left was to get inside. The blast knocked us back. We heard the building creaking. It could collapse at any moment. Hendricks thought we should stand down. It wasn't worth it.
You push back.
We needed that dossier. At this point, it was our only lead to Deimos. I told Hendricks to call in exfil. I'd take the safe house. Bishop had told us the document was hidden in the panic room within the facility.
Who was in the panic room?
Her. Kane. Our guardian angel. Someone had beaten the hell out of her. Go Yulan. She was there for the same thing I was. The same thing our friend was. The dossier.
Do it. Kill her. Kill his host. Prove yourself worthy.
Did you kill him?
I struggled. Panicked. I acted in the heat of the moment.
And the file on Deimos?
Most likely it was reduced to Kindle. Gone. Or so we thought. Hendricks called in transport. Singapore was another dead end. But we needed a few answers from Kane. Starting with who the hell was she? And what was she doing in an abandoned CIA safe house? The truth proved more eye-opening than we could have imagined. After the aquifers, we certainly hadn't expected to see Kane again, let alone here. She wanted the same thing we did. The data drive on Deimos. Better yet, she knew where it was. It was moved from the safe house to a CIA black station in the quarantine zone.
Did she say why Gojulan was trying to kill her?
It wasn't Gojulan. Julan was a puppet of Deimos, and Deimos wanted Kane dead. Guess he didn't like her very much.
Did you trust her?
No, not yet. Our guard was up, but if she could get us to the black station, it was worth a shot. The Singapore quarantine zone. We never thought we'd be back here.
Bad memories?
You know damn well it certainly wasn't good ones, Doc. The place was a living, breathing reminder of the incident 5 years ago. We'd be in and out quick. We weren't staying any longer than we had to. Find out who this Deimos asshole was and get the hell out of Dodge. Kane said the data drive on Deimos was encrypted and separated into 2 pieces. We needed both to access the drive. Like a lock and key.
The lock, I assume, was at the black station. Where was the key?
The key. That was down by the docks. Undead Central. Heavy hostiles. We brought a DNI-equipped micro-missile launcher. Couldn't be too careful. That and Command had prepped a drone strike to wipe out most of the dock. But with the high winds from the incoming superstorm, well, no guarantees it'd work. We grabbed our spike anchors in case we needed to be nailed down. After the docks, our rendezvous with Kane was set for an abandoned police station. Hendricks took point.
More vultures.
Preying on the weak. Since the fall of the Immortals, they'd inherited all of Singapore. Turned the place into some twisted version of the Wild West. After the events at the safe house, we caught their attention. They weren't exactly thrilled with us on their turf, and were taking it out on the locals to find us.
Why didn't you step in? You could have saved them.
Calculated risks. We needed to stay quiet and lay low.
But there's always a chance, isn't there?
Chance is a billion-sided die. You like the odds of that? If they didn't die today, they'd die tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after. One way or another, death was coming for all of us. Nobody was getting out alive. If we tried to save them, it could be our necks in those collars. We weren't there to save 2 people. We were there to save all the rest of us. We needed to get to the Black Station, raising as little alarm as possible. The last thing we needed were the dead and vultures after our troops. Turns out the odds were already stacked against us. Picking up. The superstorm could hit at any moment. Good thing we grabbed those spike anchors. We were gonna need them. The plan was to wait on the drone strike. Once it did its part, we'd move in. The missiles weren't effective. The wind too strong. And now that ocean liner looked like it was about to rip free. That thing would pulverize the dock, taking the data drive with it. Hendricks said, fuck it. We were built to kill the dead. No reason to switch it up now. We secured the first part of the drive and uploaded the information to Kane. Hendricks moved to sweep the wheelhouse. The howling wind told us we had to hit it fast and quick.
Superstorm hit sooner than expected.
The barge ripped free and barreled towards us.
And hang on for dear life.
We'd been set to rendezvous at an abandoned police station, but we were off route. We cut through the flooded subway to save time. With the dead cleared out, we moved toward our rendezvous. Turns out we weren't the only living things in there. A vulture got the drop on us, determined to reduce us to scrap metal. He'd hit a big payday with us cornered.
You were a payday to him? How so?
We were dead killers. You break us down to spare parts, you can fetch a pretty penny on the black market.
But you were there to fight the dead. You were an ally.
Maybe in 2070, when we were the saviors of mankind. By 2075, everybody wanted a piece of us. This guy would have gotten his share, too. But Kane did her part to make sure that didn't happen.
She was well trained. Was she CIA? Winslow Accord?
She was just someone who was always in the right place, at the right time. Before we could move on the Black Station, we had other problems.
What had gone wrong?
We hadn't taken the scavengers into account. They'd figured out they had dead killers in their midst. Kane told us they had a comms relay ahead. If we scrambled them, it could lead the vultures away from the Black Station, at least long enough for us to get what we needed.
So much for maintaining a low profile, I suppose.
What did I tell you? The thing about dead killers is there's always a plan B. You don't create the problems, just the solutions. You adapt to what's thrown at you.
Adapt or die.
Yeah. Adapt or die. We plan to regroup with Kane outside of Chinatown. With their comms scrambled, we had one less nuisance to deal with at the Black Station. Now to get the drive and get the hell out of this shithole.
You couldn't take being here, could you? You felt haunted coming back to this city.
The feeling had latched onto me at the safe house. Like I was being watched. Something had their eyes on me.
Something? Not someone?
And I just felt something pulling me, guiding me. I couldn't shake it. Our rendezvous with Kane was just ahead. By the time we rendezvoused with Kane, the dead were crawling all over the street.
What was Kane's plan?
Hit him in the gullet, then bag and tag. Gotta admit, the girl wasn't afraid of a fight. She seemed to welcome it, relish it.
Like yourself?
Like a berserker. Like a dead killer.
What did you find in the Black Station?
Slaughtered CIA staff. We weren't the only ones looking for the data drives. It was a gruesome scene. Kane quickly assembled the drive.
What did you learn? Did you find the information on Deimos?
We found a dossier. A diary, really. A living testament of what happened 15 years ago, and in the years since. It explained Project Corvus, a CIA mind control experiment. These scientists had combined two ancient biochemical compounds, Nova-6 and something called Element 115. They fused them together, created a chemical cocktail, and injected it through their test subjects' DNI. They wanted to control them.
Control them?
Those corpses, below coalescence in Project Corvus, they weren't patients. They were prisoners, the criminally insane. The scientists believed they could make them well again, make people better.
But instead, they opened the gateway.
A gateway to Malum. It was another dimension filled with absolute evil. It sounds crazy even saying it now, but they opened it not realizing what they'd done, and they let him through.
Deimos.
Deimos, demigod of dread and terror. He caused the coalescence disaster, unleashed 6115 upon the world, creating the undead that roamed the earth. There were details on Taylor's team. They were working for Deimos. Helped him trigger Armageddon. There was also other information on his sister, Dolos, demigoddess of trickery and deception. Deimos, he didn't like her very much.
And the researcher? Did he have a name? Who wrote this document?
Yes, it was... Wait. Holy shit. Dr. Salim. It said Dr. Salim. It was you. You wrote the dossier on Deimos. You were the man behind Project Corvus. Why didn't you tell me Project Corvus wrote the report? You pulled me along like you had no clue what I was talking about.
If I had told you, the impact would not have been the same. You know that. That you could not recall is no fault of mine.
After the Black Station, we had to find you. Find out what you knew.
I was in Cairo at the time. Your friend, Khalil.
He brought you to Ramsey Station, humanity's last holdout in Egypt. We knew who Deimos was, where he was from, but we didn't know why. He'd taken over the world, but to do what? To find out why, we had to talk to you. Pieces were coming together. Virus 6115, Taylor's team, the undead. It all came back to Deimos. All we needed was you. Hendricks was unhinged. The idea his friends betrayed mankind to help a demigod. The concept alone was insane, let alone his friends' involvement. Kane was in it to the end. By now, she was as obsessed with stopping Deimos as we were. We weren't ready for Cairo, no matter what we thought. This place. If there was ever a place that was hell on Earth, this was it. It wasn't just the city. The entirety of northern Africa had fallen to the undead. The walls were covered with memories of the dead, those taken by 6115. Lost to this wasteland, the desert for the undead. It was the last place on Earth you'd want to be. But you chose to hide there. Why?
For that very reason. I hoped no one would come for me.
Why? What were you running from?
From what you sought. Deimos.
Khalil was waiting. He was holding you in an interrogation room.
How was Khalil? Happy to see you.
It wasn't a warm welcome. As far as he was concerned, we owed him one for grabbing you. More than a few men gave their lives to bring you in. He hoped it was worth it.
He was angry?
He was tired. Tired of fighting a losing battle. Khalil was a realist. He'd fight to the death for country. But he knew what was coming.
And what was coming?
Extinction. The undead changed everything. The NRC were hit first and hardest. We saw that in Ethiopia. The damage done by the dead didn't even take into account what the water wars did. When the continent dried up and the Nile River Coalition took war to Egypt over the Nile, the last water supply. They were so busy fighting they didn't realize it too had dried up. But the rise of the undead? How do you fight an enemy that doesn't need water? Khalil's rage wasn't misplaced. It wasn't personal. He was just barely holding on.
What did you hope to learn from speaking to me?
How to stop Deimos. Everyone has a weakness. The whole base was on edge. You could feel it in the air. The dead were moving on Ramses. An assault was imminent. Khalil didn't know how much time we had with you. Hendricks demanded to know why we weren't informed.
How did Khalil respond to his anger?
WA command was down. How was he meant to get his message through? Besides, they still had their dead system. They used to knock enemy aircraft out of the sky, but now they were used to eviscerate the undead. If any came too close, the laser cannons would take them out. Khalil led us to interrogation. He warned us our time was limited. No telling when the dead might attack. But if we could get answers out of you, maybe we could find a way to fight back. You certainly weren't too happy to see us.
You say it like I had a choice in the matter.
With no time, we needed you to be willing to talk. The truth serum would make you relax, more willing to divulge. Hendricks told us to take a walk. He asked about Taylor and Deimos. He wanted you to connect the dots.
And I told him Deimos controlled them. Your friend Bishop was correct. There was a brain manipulating the undead. It was Deimos. Deimos realized he could access a person's DNA. He could possess them, inhabit them, consume them. He didn't need to turn them.
Like puppets on strings.
The undead are mindless creatures, but Taylor's team, Gojulan, anyone with DNI, they could be hosts. They were slaves to do his bidding.
Hendricks wanted to know why. We both did.
For many years I had studied Deimos and his dimension Malum, a place of unspeakable evil. He had been pulled to Earth, yanked from his existence by accident. Trapped here, he saw opportunity to enslave humanity and use them to wage an unholy war against Dolos.
The demigoddess. His sister. That was it? We were just a chess piece? Our entire existence was just...
A pawn in a much larger game in a universe far bigger than you realize. Humanity is an anthill. Deimos and Dolos are two children fighting over the magnifying glass. But Hendricks was desperate. He wanted to know how to kill Deimos.
You told him he couldn't.
How does one kill a god? You can't. The only way to defeat him, the only way to sever his control over the undead, for Bishop Surum to work and save humanity, was to send him back to Malum.
And to do that, we needed to open the gateway.
As we are doing now, by walking through your memories.
The assault on Ramses was beginning. The base was about to be overrun. We owed Khalil a favor. Time to take the fight to the death. We weren't ready for the station assault. I don't know how the dead got in. Maybe an abandoned tunnel, an infected civilian, or maybe the vultures let them through. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. Egyptian army came over comms. They'd never seen a horde this size move on the station. If we had any chance to stop them, we needed to reinforce the eastern checkpoint, a narrow passageway the dead would need to traverse to reach Ramses. Cairo. She was a city on fire. Except for the Egyptian army and a smattering of civilians hidden away. She'd fallen to the dead. Khalil didn't say it, but I could hear it in his voice. He knew this was the last stand. If they lost this battle, they'd lose the city.
What was Khalil's plan?
The undead were moving on the eastern checkpoint. A clear shot at Ramsey Station. The Egyptian army had rigged explosives below the street, but there were a few support columns we would need to take out first. We had the spike launcher for that.
You talked of his desperation, his total acknowledgement of futility. Yet here he was, staying and fighting.
What else was he going to do? If it wasn't today, it was tomorrow, or the day after that. We lost the war. The moment Diaz opened the quarantine zones, the moment Deimos entered our dimension, one way or another, death was coming for us all. But while we still could, we would fight. And right now, we had a checkpoint to defend. It was a simple, except our VTOL was shot out of the sky. The mobile blockade fell early. It wasn't just the undead gunning for us. Cairo was a no-man's land, filled with the undead, rogue robotics, and scavengers. They were all converging on our position. If we were gonna pull this off, we didn't have time to fuck around. I grabbed the spike launcher and told Kane at HQ to locate the support columns for us to blow. We detonated the last support column. We had to get back behind the wall so we could blow the street. Our triggerman got hit. I had to get up there and detonate. I told Hendricks I needed a moment. Good thing Hendricks still had our back. Khalil thanked us. He thought they still had a chance. They had no idea what was about to happen. Egyptian Army Command came over comms. A scavenger had blown a hole through Sophia Square, and the undead were pouring through, headed for Ramses. I told Khalil we'd take care of the square. I gave Hendricks a hand opening the VTOL hatch. I heard screams. There was someone still alive.
You went in to save this man? The odds of his survival could not have been great. You yourself said no one was getting out alive.
Does that matter? I guess it was Khalil who changed my mind. There were so few of us left. If there was a chance, any chance, I'd take it.
Strange. Even with all odds stacked against you, you tried to help this man. He clung to life without hope, and still you tried to save him.
Turns out it didn't matter. He didn't survive. It would only be a matter of time before he turned and joined the Horde. No time to stop and mourn. If I did that, I'd end up joining him. And we weren't going there just yet. Sophia Square was a total snafu. Undead, rogue robotics, everything in the kitchen sink wanted a piece of us. It didn't take long for the vultures to drop a second ASP in the area. Take long for the vultures to drop a second ASP in the area. It was only a matter of time before a malfunctioning ASP arrived, ready to take out everyone and everything. We cleared the plaza, but something was wrong. I could hear it.
What did you hear?
Nothing. And that was the problem. It took us a moment to realize what had happened. Something had taken out the dead system. One of the scavengers, maybe a malfunctioning biped. We saw reinforcements fly in, but it was too late. Khalil tried to reach Egyptian command. All we heard were screams. Ramsey's station had fallen to the dead. We got out of the open. Khalil, he'd reached a breaking point. No mistaking that look. That look of defeat, anger, frustration, hopelessness. You try to sympathize, you try to comfort. Doesn't matter. Then Kane came over comms. She'd picked up the location of Sarah Hall, another of Taylor's team. Her signal popped back up on the grid. We had traced her to Kebeshet, the sandy ruins of Cairo's Garden City. I told Khalil if there was a sliver of hope, we needed to catch Hall and find Taylor. If we did, and found a way to send Deimos back to Malum, we could undo all of this.
And Hendricks?
His mind was melting. I still didn't know what was sparking his behavior. He didn't want to go after Hall. I said he didn't have a say in the matter. He didn't like that.
He attacked you.
I told you. It wasn't him. It was that look in his eyes. Like Gojulan. Like Moretti. Like Diaz. He wasn't buying this interdimensional bullshit. And why should he?
What did he say to you?
Salim lies.
He didn't think opening the portal would save us. It would destroy us. The last time it opened, evil came through. Why would this time be different? He said Deimos was trying to trick us. He said you were lying to us. Are you? This is wrong. This is all wrong. You said opening the gateway would save humanity. It was the only way to defeat Deimos and send him back to Malum. But opening the gateway would let the forces of evil through, allow them to conquer Earth, enslave us. Wait, we didn't meet at Ramsey Station. That didn't happen. You're feeding me false memories.
Be careful, my child. Tread lightly, or you are liable to offend me.
We contacted Khalil, inquired about you. He said you were dead. You died some time ago. I saw you die. When I was with Hall, inside her mind, she showed me the truth. Who are you really, Doctor? Deimos was going to open the gateway. He needed the demons of Malum to enslave Earth for the battle against Dolos. We didn't know what he had planned, but we had Sarah Hall, her signal tracing to Kebeshet.
You didn't think it odd that her signal appeared? After years of absence.
There wasn't time to think about it. But if we got her, we could find Taylor and decipher Deimos' plan. We had no idea we were being baited for a trap. She was waiting. She knew we were coming. Deimos was using Taylor to open the gateway. If we were gonna find him, we needed to take Hall down and interface with him.